Greetings Stoutlaws, I was sent a Chivalry 2 key by Tripwire and I've been delving deeper into the combat system. I've only played around 10 hours in total including the beta testing and I'm still learning the game. I was told that the one-handed spear is broken and after unlocking it I'd have to agree that it's probably slightly too strong. This is my first game with the loadout and as you can see it's doing serious work. It took me a while to figure out the combat in Civ 2 and it turns out that the primary foundations are very similar to the culling. If you remember that game, you'll recall that the three core mechanics function like rock, paper, scissors. Kick beats parry, parry beats attack, attack beats kick. With the spear, your range is so great that your opponent always has to parry, leaving them vulnerable to one of your kick attempts. I'm not sure if the kick is readable, sometimes I think I can read it, but other times it's fairly instant, and most players will parry if you throw in a kick instead of the usual riposte. The bash ability is even less readable, so when combined with a kick, this mix-up is more powerful than any of the feints in Chivalry 1, which seemingly defeats the purpose of nerfing feints in the first place. But both of these attacks have short ranges, allowing good players to mitigate the threat with spacing. The universal dodge ability becomes overpowered with long weapons. You can dodge, force your opponent to miss, and because there's no parry and recovery, you can land a free hit. You have to be very precise when aiming with your stabs in particular, as these are prone to getting sidestepped. This illustrates my point from the last two videos that combo feint to parry, or the ability to parry instantly after missing, is required in this genre of games, otherwise missing is far too punishing, unless it's a specific weapon nerf for large clunky weapons like the Maul and Mordhau. It does however lower time to kill, which could be considered an advantage if you don't want drawn out fights. I'm not a fan of the dodge mechanic as it's still broken, just like in Civ 1. Essentially, it's an easy way to force a miss if your opponent attempts to swing from their max weapon range, and visually it looks as appealing as cranking that soldier boy. Dodging sideways is also very effective as it's tricky to track a teleporting player, and when combined with no parry and recovery, this mechanic becomes extremely obnoxious. Initiative is all over the place in Civ 2. It's not uncommon to hit someone and then have them hit you with a fast one-hander before you get a chance to combo them. It's also pretty unclear at what point you can't go to punish a kick anymore, and due to all the parry lockouts, the game often feels unresponsive. Some of that may be due to me being unfamiliar with the game. There's a myriad of different attacks for players to pick at any given moment. From heavy attacks to special attacks to sprinting attacks and even alternative angle attacks, there's never a lack of options. But there is a lack of space on the average mouse and the controls become convoluted quickly, even for me using my MMO mouse with 15 different binds. You also have the option at any point in a fight to hurl your weapon at your opponent, but the animation here needs some serious attention as they fly out faster than a railgun. This will usually result in a kill on a low health foe, so long as you don't miss. Luckily for me, I'm global elite in CSGO, so my aim is impeccable. Although the one-handed spear is strong, it turns out that the most powerful weapon in Chivalry 2 is the shovel, according to this guy who is the best player I've encountered so far, and look how fast he dispatches me with this thing. The counter system, which can be largely ignored when fighting lower skilled opponents, now becomes essential to utilise when fighting top level players, and you'll have to start reading morphed swings, which Civ 2 confusingly labels as feints. This does add a lot of depth to the game's skill ceiling, and unlike feinting in Mordhau, casual players can choose to take part in these high level mix-ups when they feel ready, rather than right out of the gate. Unfortunately, top level combat in Chivalry 2 does look horrendous, even more so than Mordhau. Despite the held parry, spinning and dragging is still encouraged because the longer you waste your opponent's time by delaying your attack, the more stamina they're hemorrhaging by holding down parry.
I'm about to end this man's whole career.
What career?
But I'm not a rap. How?
When dodging, crouching and leaning is combined, the player movement contorts into a goblin-esque fashion, and if dueling Homer is any indication of where the game's heading, then it's not looking healthy. If you enjoy swing manipulation, then you'll find a surprising amount in Civ 2, at the cost of the visual authenticity of the combat. That being said, there's only a handful of players currently taking the combat system to this extreme, especially if you're not playing in a duel server, and usually the fights are pretty entertaining. Structurally, held parry and counters makes more sense for a new player going in than Mordhau's parrying and chamber mechanics. In Civ 2, the more complicated input is the more skilled one, whereas the reverse is true in Mordhau, which isn't ideal. Overall, Chivalry 2 is an interesting take on the genre, but the best moments are to be found in the team objective setting where the numerous imperfections of the combat are less noticeable.
We like to troll. We do a little trolling. It's called We Do a Little Trolling.
Today's sponsor is Adventure Capitalist, a mobile game that came out back when telephones were first invented 6 years ago, and it's still going strong to this day. If you're a returning player, then there's plenty of new content to catch up on. The objective of AdCap matches my objective with the sponsor to make money. This is one of those perfectly designed games where you can't lose, which means that you can play the game whilst playing another game. If you're really good at the second game that you're playing, you can even play a third game. Now you're really gaming. There's also rewards to be earned if you download the game right now, including party hats. Now, I know you're interested in the history of Adventure Capitalist, so you'll be thrilled to hear that there's going to be a 5-part YouTube documentary exploring the detailed lore behind this iconic handheld title. One man proposed the concept of the game and the rest of the team called it a dumb idea. Luckily, the gaming population loves dumb ideas and the company was saved. Check out the full series on the Adventure Capitalist YouTube channel. If AdCap sounds like your kind of game, then check out the link below to download and get clicking.